My name is David Parnell. I am an associate professor of history here at Indiana University Northwest. In recent years, powerful women in the United States and around the world have been the target of sexually explicit criticism. The Pizzagate conspiracy theory of 2016 falsely alleged that then presidential candidate Hillary Clinton directed a child sex ring through a pizzeria. In 2019, an AI developer created an app titled Deep Nude, which could digitally undress women. The app was used to create fake videos of female politicians removing their clothes. Today, powerful women on social media can expect to receive sexually explicit messages from other users at the startling rate of 200 per day. While the technology used to harass women, create smear videos, or to circulate conspiracy theories through social media may be relatively new, the practice of men accusing powerful women of sexual misbehavior is not at all new. It's a tradition that stretches back thousands of years in human history. My research specialization is the Roman Empire in the 6th century, almost 1,500 years ago. This was an age long before artificial intelligence, social media, or the internet, but the ancient Romans had this in common with us. Some of them resented powerful women. In 527, Justinian became emperor, and his wife, Theodora, empress. From our vantage point, all these years later, the two seem to have been quite in love. But their marriage was also a partnership. Theodora assisted Justinian in governing the Roman Empire, helping him to craft laws and appoint government officials. She was widely respected, and supplicants bowed to her just as they bowed to Justinian. And yet, Theodora's power did not go unchallenged. Simmering below the surface was a resentment and a bitterness that would not be unfamiliar to powerful women today. We know about the existence of this resentment because of the writing of Procopius, a very educated and intelligent man who wrote an official and public history of the wars fought during the reign of Justinian and Theodora. In his official writing, Procopius praised Theodora's boldness and beauty. However, the author also wrote a scandalous book entitled The Secret History, which portrayed Theodora in a very different light. In this text, he claimed that she had been an actress and a prostitute before she had married Justinian. Procopius charged that the young Theodora was, quote, enslaved to lust, and made a habit of having sex with more than 10 men a night in an attempt to satisfy her desire. He accused her of repeatedly exposing herself in public, displaying her nudity in an attempt to advertise her sexual skills to those walking by. It is safe to say that Procopius pulled no punches in his effort to slander Theodora in the most graphic way possible. Theodora was not the only powerful woman of the age to be the target of sexual slanders in the secret history. After Theodora, Antonina was perhaps the most influential woman in the Roman Empire at this time. She was the wife of the general Belisarius, who fought many wars for Justinian. As was the case with Theodora, the author Procopius had very different things to say about Antonina in his official and his personal writings. In his official history of the wars, Procopius described Antonina as a clever, capable woman, dedicated to public service. Antonina accompanied Belisarius on his military campaign, traveling to both North Africa and Italy with her husband and his army. In Italy, she assisted her husband's officers in organizing and escorting a supply convoy to the besieged city of Rome. It is possible she was even in command of the operation. At another time, Antonina helped Theodora to entrap and disgrace the most important civilian official in Justinian's government. She was clearly a political operative in her own right. Even Procopius admitted this, saying, quote, Antonina was the most capable of all people when it came to devising means by which to accomplish the impossible. However, in the secret history, Procopius again painted a much different picture of Antonina. Here, the fact that she accompanied Belisarius on campaign is presented as a negative. The author accuses her of controlling her husband using magic and seduction. Procopius inverted the traditional gender dynamics of marriage at the time and claimed that Antonina was the mistress of Belisarius. This is classic gender-based invective, but Procopius did not stop there. He also accused Antonina of seducing her adopted son, Theodosius. He wrote, quote, "Her lust kept getting stronger until it was unspeakably disgusting." According to Procopius, the incestuous affair lasted for years before her husband Belisarius found out. There are many parallels between Procopius's gendered slanders of Theodora and Antonina and the sexually explicit criticism that powerful women in our modern world must endure. In both cases, the slanders are made by men who are bitter and angry that women have a position of power and authority in a world that they imagine belongs to them. One traditional view of Procopius's criticism is that his sexual slander against women was intended to diminish the power and popularity of their husband. While it is true that Procopius also attacked Justinian, the husband of Theodora, and Belisarius, the husband of Antonina, I do not think his literary assaults on the two women were only about getting at their husband. Theodora and Antonina were powerful figures in their own right, not simply because of their husbands, and it seems that Procopius genuinely resented their authority. To conclude, I want to return to an incident I mentioned briefly earlier. In the fall of 537, Antonina and Belisarius were in Italy, fighting a war with the Ostrogoths. The Roman army was besieged in the city of Rome, and Belisarius desperately needed reinforcements and supplies. The general first sent Procopius, who later wrote the official story of this war, to Naples to secure the supplies. Procopius proudly writes in his history that he collected 500 soldiers and a great amount of food. However, not long afterwards, Antonina showed up in Naples and took over command of the entire operation. Procopius disappeared from the mission, even in his own account of it. Instead, Antonina led the convoy and successfully delivered the reinforcements and supplies to Rome in December 537. It seems that Procopius was upstaged in his moment of glory by Antonina. Nobody knows for sure why the author later wrote such nasty sexual slanders about her in the secret history, but it is tempting to imagine that his resentment at being replaced by a woman in 537 might have had something to do with it. Antonina and Theodora were powerful women at this time, and the sexual slanders written by men like Procopius were an attempt to degrade their authority. Given that their power is still well known 1,500 years later, it would seem that the attempt failed.